Hi everyone, I'm Brenna Smith and I'll be your tour guide today on the presentation of SSIS Integrations, the Clever Girls of Data Transfer. We'll explore how our team manages Slate integrations using SSIS, SFTP, and PowerShell, and how we keep the data ecosystem running smoothly with strong communication from our stakeholders. So please, keep your hands, arms, and data inside the vehicle at all times because Integration Park is open and our journey is about to begin. We are not responsible for any rogue dinosaurs, broken joins, or duplicate records encountered on the way. So buckle up. So first off, we're going to talk about our processes because anytime you're implementing a project, it's important to have a process and to have what the end goal is. So one of the biggest reasons why MyNest was so successful and why it won the Best Internal Staff and Campus Portal at the 2024 Slate Summit was because of strong communication with our stakeholders. From the very beginning, we had a clear understanding of what the end goal was, an advising portal that will centralize student information in one place. That is a big dream, but we tackled it one step at a time. And I would like to preference that it's still something in the works. We are constantly improving it and seeing what works best for our faculty and staff to use the portal to help our students. But first, we gathered the business requirements from our functional users. They told us what they needed and we translated that into technical solutions. So we have our SQL database, we went in and we're like, hey, we have this data, that data, we can get these columns in, and do you want it? And they said, yes, we love it. And at that point, I don't really know what academic data was supposed to look like before this project. So they had to validate it. And the way that worked was that we put that data and we gave it into an Excel sheet. We gave it to them and they're like, is this what you're expecting to see? And does it match what you currently view in Banner? And most of the time they said yes. But working on them helped us reduce errors early on. It didn't catch everything, but it definitely saved us from a lot of future headaches. Then we tested. We would upload one record into Slate, make sure that it fielded and mapped properly, and then we move the full data set in. We don't want to move thousands of records into Slate and have student information be wrong. So we would rather do one record, erase it, and still have our system's performance be in top notch. So once we know that the data looks good and maps properly into Slate, that's when we can begin the automation. And that's our specialty, automation. So step by step, we got there, and that's what made it successful. Not just the tech, but the teamwork. This is a cycle for every new data set we wanted to implement. It wasn't just a one and done. Every single time there is a change to the data, we talk to our functional users and owners. We want to make sure that is correct before going into the system. This is all a big prevention of having our system get bogged down. Just because one works, it doesn't mean that all of them will. And this process loosely follows a hybrid between Agile and traditional SDLC practices. We gather business requirements upfront like the waterfall, we iterate, test small pieces, and work closely with our functional users about the project, and very much in spirit of Agile. Alright, before we hop into the Jeep, here's a quick overview of today's adventure through Integration Park. First, we'll start off by covering what SSIS is and how we use it. Then we'll move to SFTP and how the two work together as a part of a larger integration. From there, we'll dive into how to build a bidirectional integration to solve a real advising challenge, and I'll walk you through the step-by-step process. And hopefully by then, you'll not only understand the system, but you'll make it out of this alive. So, those who've never heard of SSIS, you might be like, what is it? SSIS stands for SQL Server Integration Services, and it's a Microsoft tool that we use for automating data movement. It's also called an ETL tool. That means it can extract data from a source system, transform it on whatever rules or business logic we need, and load it into a destination system. Basically, it's a pipeline that moves and shapes our data behind the scenes. So I now want you to think back to Jurassic Park. Do you remember Mr. DNA? He popped up, he explained how dino DNA worked and walked us through the science with a little flair. That's what SSIS does. It's our Mr. DNA. It doesn't just move the data, it teaches it where to go, reshapes it, and gets exactly where it needs to be, all without needing human intervention at every step. Now, let's talk about SFTP, and that stands for Secure File Transfer Protocol. Think of it as our official transportation system for data. If SSIS is Mr. DNA doing the behind-the-scenes science, SFTP is the armored jeep making sure our dinosaurs, aka our files, get where they need to go safely. We don't want just anyone accessing the dinosaurs. That's why SFTP is secure. Only those with the right keys, credentials, and whitelisted IP addresses can see what's going inside or moving them around. And even then, not everyone with IP addresses can see what we want. We can limit those. So, on the left side of the slide, you'll see our outgoing folder, and that's where our exports live. We organize them by destination, whether it's Banner, EDW, our enterprise data warehouse, or another system. On the right, you'll see a long list of incoming folders. These are our imports, and we sort these by data set so we always know what's arriving and where it belongs. Organization is everything in Integration Park. We don't want any stray dinosaurs or data files wandering around unaccounted for. It's about keeping the park safe, secure, and running smoothly. Imagine if we didn't have any of these folders, how difficult it would be to troubleshoot, right? Did this file come in today? Is it being cleaned up? Is it being processed? All of this is handled within those folders, and it reduces the error of risk. Think of us like a pack of velociraptors. You stare at me and I stare right back at you. But that's not when the attack comes. Not from the front, but from the side. From the two other raptors you didn't even know were there. SSIS and SFTP. And together, they work so powerful in helping transform and send off our files securely. So let's talk about it some more. So now that you've met SSIS and SFTP on their own, let's talk about what happens when you combine their powers together. This is where the real magic, and maybe a little mayhem, can start. When these two systems work together, they automate and streamline how data moves across your organization. But like any well-ran dinosaur park, it takes coordination, planning, and a lot of behind-the-scenes safety checks. So as Samuel L. Jackson wisely says, hold on to your butts. Let's break it down. Uses. SSIs can manipulate data based on specific business needs, whether it's reformatting, filtering, mapping fields to match your destination system. It's incredibly flexible. It can use native tools, scripts, or third-party components like Task Factory to connect to an SFTP server. So we're not just throwing data over the fence, we're shaping it, checking it, and sending it where it belongs in the format people expect. So now we can talk about scheduling and control. One of the biggest SSIS's strengths is automation. You can schedule packages to run at specific times, daily, hourly, or triggered by an event. This keeps the file transfers happening regularly and reliably without someone having to click a button every time. It ensures that data is delivered on time and keeps things flowing, even if it's 3 a.m. and no one's around to hit go. But what happens if there's an error? It does talk about error handling and logging, because nothing in a complex system works perfectly all the time. SSIS also allows us to build robust logging and notification systems. If a file fails to upload, or the connection times out, or the data is missing a critical value, maybe it's too long, we can log that, flag it, and get alerted. This helps with faster troubleshooting, cleaner audit trails, and less time wondering, what went wrong? It's like building your own electric fences around the data. You might still have a few velociraptor-sized problems, but at least at the end, you'll know where they broke through. So yeah, SSIS and SFTP are strong tools on their own, but together, they're an engine behind integrations, efficient, scalable, and just a little bit dangerous if you're not paying attention. All right, now it's time for some fun dinosaur facts, our MindNest data stats. First, here's a quick refresher on terminology. Imports are what we bring into Slate from other systems like Banner, CSV files, and external sources. Exports are the data we send out of Slate to systems that we need, like Banner, our enterprise data warehouse. You can think of imports as new dinosaurs being brought into the park, and exports as moving dinosaurs safely out to other facilities. Currently, we have over 30 imports in production, pulling in data on applicants, students, employees, and courses. with over 300 individual data elements being tracked. A new addition that we recently have is Canvas data. So these can send out academic alerts. We can last see when students have signed into Canvas, they're missing assignments, they're on-time assignments, and late assignments. On the export side, we have 8 active integrations sending data out to Banner, our data warehouse, and our Apply Now instance. A great real-world example of this is our pre-certification for graduation. We used to manage that process in Banner, but now advisors enter the information directly into Slate. From there, we run an export that automatically sends data to Banner where it's processed. It saves time, reduces manual error, and keeps advisors from having to bounce between systems. In short, it's like giving our Raptors little walkie-talkies and a fewer fences to climb. So with all project implementations, there's always going to be the unexpected. One thing we didn't originally plan for in our Slate implementation was the concept of diffing. We assumed Slate would just handle it. But once we got deeper into the data and how Slate works with updates, we realized diffing needed to happen outside of Slate in our middleware. So what is diffing? Data diffing is the act of comparing 2 tables, in our example, one from Slate and one from your sources system, to check if its specific values have changed. It's a crucial step in when deciding whether to update a record, skip it, or flag it for review. Now here's the catch. Slate is not a system of record. It's a reflection of data from somewhere else, like Banner. And Slate handles nulls and missing records in very interesting ways. It assumes that nothing has changed. It can be a little unpredictable, kind of like the dinosaur that doesn't show up on thermal cameras. But that's why we recommend doing diffing in your middleware, where you can have full control over logic and can decide, hey, this student wasn't active yesterday, but they are today. They're new, they're incoming, they signed up for courses. Let's get them active. Or, hey, this advisor assignment hasn't changed. We don't need to send it again. Some real-world examples in our Slate instance can be employees that they used to work here and now they're coming back. We love you enough, they're back, they're here to stay. So that can switch from inactive to active, and same with advisor assignments, right? So if a student changes their major, we need to set that they have a new primary active advisor. And so that's one of our examples with diffing. Another big common one is course registration. At drop week is crazy, it's insane. Students deciding, yeah, I'll take this class. It gets sent to Slate. Suddenly they drop it because nope, they weren't supposed to take it. We have to mark that as inactive. We track these changes in our database, compare old and new values, and only push when something has actually changed. It saves processing time, reduced risk, and keeps Slate from making unnecessary updates, or worse, wiping something that should have stayed put. Now, bidirectional integrations. We all remember the scene, right, with the kids in the kitchen and the raptors are hunting them. That's me in the corner when my boss told me I need to make a bidirectional integration, and the raptor is coming straight for me. It's the task, it's the bidirectional integration. And at first, it's terrifying. And this is where it's gonna differ from the movies. I've come to learn that the bidirectional integration isn't all that scary. It runs efficient, it helps our instances talk to each other, but it still has teeth. So, what is a bidirectional integration for anyone unfamiliar? Simply put it, it's an integration where 2 systems send and receive data from one another. In this case, our student success instance, MINUS, and our admissions instance, Apply Now, communicate directly. Data flows both directions, allowing each system to stay aligned and up to date without constant manual updates and interventions. The graphic makes it look simple. That's the dream. But inside that little yellow data folder is a robust, carefully managed process that we at UNF developed. And we'll walk you through it just in a moment. So why is this kind of setup a smart technology management decision. It reduces redundancy and manual data entry, which means less chance for human error. It keeps both systems in sync, which is critical when different teams rely on different platforms. And it gives us real-time visibility. Well, real-time, like every hour or so, helping teams make faster, better informed decisions. From a broader perspective, this kind of integration approach is a great example of strategic IS and IT planning. It leverages existing platforms like Slate without buying a new system. It's modern, scalable tech components, SSIS, SFTP, and PowerShell, and aligns with future trends, building reusable, adaptable infrastructure that can grow with the institutional needs. In other words, this isn't a quick solution. It's a long-term ecosystem management. So to give a quick little rundown of what was inside that data folder, there are 4 steps inside our integration, right? So we're going to download the files from either instance, whether it be Apply Now or MyNest, and we put them into a local folder that's for our university. Then they get uploaded to the other instance, right? Bidirectional integration, done. We could stop there, but we shouldn't. So our next step is that we actually insert this data into our university's database. We track the file name and the time that it got uploaded. This way we have fossil records. Then within the script we have a PowerShell that organizes the file into our local folders. So it'll originally get placed off in a folder. Once it's been uploaded, it goes into a process folder. Within 45 days, that file will get deleted. If an issue hasn't happened in 45 days, then we could probably delete it. If we ever do need it, let's say 60 days out, we do have it within our database. And then the last step is that we use Task Factory SFTP to go in and clean that outgoing folder because we don't want to download duplicates. So this creates a whole other cleaner process. So what's the real value of using SSIS and SFTP in a CRM implementation like Slate for Higher Ed? A lot, actually, and here's why. First, increased efficiency and automation. SSIS takes manual data handling off your plate. It automates transfers to and from Slate using SFTP, which means less room for human error, less time spent on repetitive tasks, and more time focused on meaningful work. Second would be data security. SFTP ensures sensitive data, especially student records, is protected during transfer, and that's critical in higher ed where we're handling FERPA regulated information every day. There's enhanced quality. SSIS allows us to clean and transfer data before it ever touches Slate. And decision making. This is the biggest one. With bidirectional integration, both systems like student success and admissions have consistent and accurate data. This empowers staff to make smarter decisions, act faster, and support students more effectively. So as we wrap this up, we're going to talk about what happens after the integration is built, because it doesn't just stop at it works. One of the biggest reasons why this project succeeded is because we actively partnered with stakeholders. We didn't just gather requirements, we listened. We made sure the integration aligned with goals, not just technical needs. That's how you build something that lasts. We also committed to best practices like dynamic file management, strong error handling, and clear logging. It's not flashy by any means, but they're essential. They help with scaling, troubleshooting, and making sure your system is something that other teams can trust. But we're not done. We're already working on moving workflows from Banner to Slate, improving SQL performance, and building better monitoring for the future. Planning is a part of a smart integration. And finally, stay involved. We regularly stay in contact with stakeholders and our PMO. I lead a monthly meeting across both Slate instances, not just to teach, but to listen, to support, and learn from each other. Because at the end of the day, integrations aren't just technical, they're collaborative. And they only improve when we keep learning, sharing, and showing up. Because it's not just about the faculty and staff, it's also about the success of our students. And congratulations, you survived Integration Park. I'm glad I didn't lose any of you guys on the way. We all have our limbs. And do you have any questions? Hopefully not about dinosaurs.